This is worked example 18.10 from the OCR Year 1 book, and it's on hypothesis testing. So the question reads, in the last general election, Party Z won 36% of the vote. An opinion poll surveys 100 people and finds that 45 support Party Z. Does this provide sufficient evidence at the 10% significance level that the proportion of voters who support Party Z has changed? Right, you must define some symbols first. So here we're going to define one of them first. We can let P be the proportion of voters who support Party Z. For questions like this, you must structure your answers very well, and if you follow a certain procedure, you will do well at these questions. So you define first of all what P is, because now we put the null hypothesis, and the null hypothesis is that the proportion of voters is 36%, as the question says. The alternative hypothesis is that the proportion has changed. It doesn't say increased, it doesn't say decreased, it says changed. That can mean either an increase or a decrease. So here you will put P is not equal to 0.36. And this is what we call a two-tailed test, as opposed to a one-tailed test when this is either greater than or less than. I'll just put a one-tailed test would have either greater than or less than. So be careful with that. So the wording of the question is important. So, read carefully to decide which of the two it is. So this is a two-tailed test, and we put not equal to there. Okay, we need to define another symbol. We're going to define our x. Let x be the number of supporters of Party Z in a sample of 100 people. 100 people surveyed. You then write under H0, which is assuming that the null hypothesis is true. Under H0, X has the binomial distribution, N is 100, and P is 0.36. So we take the null hypothesis as the default. And we want the probability that X is greater than or equal to 45. Why is this? Because in the sample of 100, 45 were seen to support Party B. So it has to be 45 or greater, so 45 or more extreme. Okay, and that's going to be equal to 1 minus P, the probability that X is less than or equal to 44. We have to work it out like this so that the calculator can manage it. So we get the calculator up. And we go to menu 7 and we scroll down to binomial cumulative distribution, binomial CD. So we choose that one, and option 2, variable. And X is 44, N is 100, and P is 0.36. And that will give us 0.96028, which is 1 minus 0.9602 ... And let's put this value in the memory. So store A, and then we go to menu 1, and we do 1 minus A, and it gives us 0.0397. And we have to compare this to the significance level. So we put 0.0397 is less than, right, and we put 0.05. The significance level of the test, is 10%, 0.1. But as this is a two-tailed test, you have to halve that. You divide it by 2 to make 0.05. You do this for a two-tailed test, not for a one-tailed test. Why? Because in a two-tailed test, because it can be greater than or less than, you divide the significance level by 2, and half of it is for the top end, and the other half is for the bottom end, right? So don't forget to do this, divide by 2, when it's a two-tailed test. It's critical. And so you do that, and the calculated probability is less than the significance level. So in this case, we will reject H0. Remember to put this down always in terms of H0. You will reject H0 or you will not reject H0. So in this case, we reject H0, and then finally, at the end, your conclusion must be in context. And so there is sufficient evidence at the 10% significance level that the proportion of voters who support Party Z has changed. That's the end of the question. So key points there, not equal to, as it's a two-tailed test. Significance level must be halved. And of course, your solution must follow a certain structure.